Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think you already warmed up a bit this morning from the amazing opening ceremony. So I would take this opportunity to start the morning session with an interesting topic that is the regional integration in ASEAN, which is composed of three main topics. The first one is Hapur and progress, power trade, and energy outlook in ASEAN. You may know that Hapur is a group of utility in ASEAN. And the second topic will be the ASEAN Power Grid and AERN. AERN is a group of energy regulators in ASEAN established in 2011. The third topic that we are going to talk today is Laos, PDR, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore Power Integration Projects, or we call it LTMS. Before we start the panel discussion, I would like to introduce you our distinguished speakers, starting from the first speaker from Indonesia, Mr. Bambang Hamawanto. Mr. Bambang received a Bachelor of Electrical Engineering from Surabaya Institute of Technology and Master of Electrical Power System from University of Manchester. So he spent almost 30 years with the PTPLN, the Electricity State Corporation of Indonesia. He was the Deputy Director of System Planning and the Vice President for the International Relations before he retired in 2009. After that, he was assigned as the Chairman of ASEAN Power Grid Consultative Committee since then. So the next speaker that I would like to introduce, he's from Vietnam, Dr. Dinh De Phuc. He received a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from University of Machinery and Electrotechnic in Pils, Czech Republic in 1988, and a Master of Engineering in Power System and Control from University of Tasmania in Australia, and PhD from Hanoi University of Technology. He spent 18 years working with Vietnam Electricity, or EVN, in many departments, such as testing centers, Planning Department, Institute of Energy, IT, and Telecommunication. After that, he moved to Regulatory Authority of Vietnam, or IRAV. At the moment, he is the Deputy Director General, and he also serves as a Chairman of ASEAN Energy Regulatory Network, or ERN. The third speaker of today in this morning session, Dr. Poonpat Leesombat Piboon. Dr. Poonpat received a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Thammasat University, Master of Science in Operational Research from London School of Economics, United Kingdom, and PhD in Economics from the George Washington University. He started his career as an analyst with National Energy Policy Office, which is now Energy Policy and Planning Office, or EPO. During his time with the EPO, he coordinated with many international agencies, for example, IEA, US Department of Energy, other government agency, and he was also a focal point of many international cooperation and a secretary of the World Economic Forum on East Asia Committee. At present, he worked with the Office of the Permanent Secretary of Energy, Ministry of Energy, as Chief of International Energy Cooperation. He is responsible for bilateral and multi-bilateral energy cooperation. He also a co-chair of the Lower Mekong Initiatives and a member of LTMS working group. So firstly, we are going to start from the Mr. Bambang from the utility point of view. So I would like to invite Mr. Bambang to present the first topic, Hapur Progress, Power Trade, and Energy Outlook. May I request a big applause for Mr. Bambang? Thank you.
Thank you, moderators. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to ERC for inviting me to present and to share the ASEAN Power Grid status and progress to all of you this morning. And I hope this information can be a benefit for all of us And also, I expect that the ASEAN energy regulatory can also help us to, to realize the ASEAN power grid. That's already years and years we work on that, but still progress is not significantly we got. So let me start with this my presentations. I choose the titles, the ASEAN Power Grid Road to Multilateral Power Trading. Okay, then I just want to share to you these slides, that with this slide we can see how difference among us on the economic size, populations, electricity consumptions also, and GDP. If you can see, the Indonesia is the largest populations in the regions. Indonesia also has the largest land area. If we can see also the electricity consumption in 2013, we see that in terms of consumptions electricity, Indonesia also the largest in the regions. But if we can see, we want to see the kilowatt hour per capita, Indonesia is still low compared to Vietnam, I think. If you can see this, so the consumption is largest, but the population also the same. And we can see also how different our economic conditions compared to Brunei and Singapore. The rest of the members still less than half of all of them. Then I can go to the next to see how the regions compare to the other part of the world. Our consumptions on electricity, based on the information or the data in 2010, we only have consume 700 terawatt hours compared to North America 4,600 terawatt hours. So our still lowest compared to this area. And the forecasted consumptions in selected country in ASEAN 2010 to 2017, Vietnam will grow 10%, Indonesia 8%, Philippines also around 7%. Then let me go to the data that we can get from ACE, ASEAN Center for Energy, in 2015. The installed capacity in the regions in 2013 mostly come from, the natural gas, and then followed by coal and renewable energy still low. But if we can see the electricity production still majority come from natural gas, followed by coal power plants. This is so that the natural gas still dominated the electricity production in the regions. The forecasted installed capacity by ACE, that's based on the business as usual. In 2020, the compositions of the fuel mix look like that coal and natural gas still dominated the fuel mix. Until 2035, natural gas is still the same part. Coal and lignite increase by, I think, around half compared to 2020. So double in 2020 from 2020, and also the renewable energy. In 2030, we expect that the contribution from renewable energy will be more than double. This is all of this because we have potential energy resources in the ASEAN. If you see that we have fossil energy resources, oil, gas, and coal, and also renewable energy resources, hydro, mostly in GMS area, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, but some in Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Malaysia. Malaysia mostly in Sarawak, East Malaysia. Geothermals we have in Indonesia and Philippines. And what about the gas? Gas we have from Brunei, Cambodia also have gas. Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Thailand. Most of the country have the gas resources. But coal, mostly we know that Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand have some, also Vietnam. So with this fact that we have hydro potential in the north of the regions and fossil energy resources down in the south. As you see, gas in Brunei, oil also Brunei, Indonesia mostly, and there coal mostly in Indonesia. While in the north we have hydro, even in Indonesia we have geothermal, and also in Vietnam. So we are going to integrate these two resources from north with green energy, hydro, and fossil energy come from the south. So what is the ASEAN power grid then? In 1997, the ASEAN head of state governments stated that the ASEAN power grid is one of the flagship program under the ASEAN Vision 2020. The other flagship is the Trans-ASEAN gas pipelines. That's the ASCOP in charge for that. And then in the 70th AMEM in Bangkok, July 1999, the APEC 2004 was adopted, and the AMEM, our leaders in energy in ASEAN, tasked to implement the ASEAN Power Grid program. Based on that, the Minister of Energy in July 2007 signed the MOU of APG with the objective to strengthen and promote power interconnection and trade, ultimately toward the realization of ASEAN Power Grid to help ensure greater regional energy security and sustainability on the basis of mutual benefit. I always take the last words that on the basis of the mutual benefit should be, we have to care on that. The objective of APG that we agreed in the Papua, that's to facilitate cross-border power purchase exchange with the regions, within the regions. We have to optimize usage of diverse energy resources in the regions, As you see that the previous slides on the energy consumptions and where the resources are available, and also as a principle of the interconnections, we can reduce capital investment required for generation capacity expansions. With that objective, we expect to reach and enhance regional energy security, reliability toward more efficient, economic, and secure operation of our system in the region. As we understood that the interconnections has many benefits for the power utility, and then the ASEAN power grids benefit will be a greater economic generation and transmission of electricity in the regions, greater reliability and security of electricity supply in the member countries. Also, there is a provision of platform for future electricity trade in the regions. From our study in Papua, that we call it the ASEAN Interconnections Master Plan Study, the second, that we identified 16 generic interconnection project for energy exchange, about 3,000 megawatt, and power purchase, almost 20 gigawatt in the regions. And we also identified a significant saving in CAPEX and OPEX. So this is what we identified, that's tangible benefit from the APG. Capital cost, we can save almost 1.8 billion US dollar. Fuel cost 154 million US dollar. So totally almost 2 billion US dollar that we can save with this ASEAN power grid. This is the updated list of the ASEAN power grid, that we have 16 generic project and almost 42 cross-border point. Among those projects that we have in the list, currently we have 8 interconnections, cross-border interconnections in operations, with around 1,300 megawatt. Let's see. This is the one that exists. Oh, you can see now the existing interconnections, the capacity of the interconnections around 3.5 gigawatt, and we will have an ongoing project 5,000 gigawatt that will be completed before 2020. And we have the rest, so the future project are about 25 gigawatt. So totally we will have 33 gigawatt in the capacity in the river. So that's the summary of the updated status of the APG. Existing project is 11 cross borders, 3,500 megawatt. Ongoing, that will be COD in 2018-2019, and the future beyond 2020, around 25 gigawatt we expect to be completed. Then I will share to you the challenge of ASEAN power grid. On the national point of view, we have that national impediments to promotion of power trade. So we can promote the power trades between country to country and among all these countries in the ASEAN. So far, we have differing national policy in ASEAN. That's our challenge. Country desires to self-sufficiency before interconnection is allowed. We understand this, that each country has their own priority, and also country concern over restructuring to be competitive under APG later on. And the industry point of view, until now, we don't have multilateral power trading because it's new for the ASEAN member states. We don't have the harmonized operational and regulatory framework or even tariff structure in the regions. We don't have mechanism for power wheeling, pool rules, power bidding, regulatory framework, and the system reliability and security standard for the utility. But also, this is also one of the challenge that the financing modality for funding sources to APG to be realized is also a challenge for us. And last, for the environmental awareness, we have renewable energy sources to be developed, and also the environment impact if we use our fossil resources in south of the regions. So with that, the Papua, especially the ASEAN Power Grid Consultative Committee, will work to further actions for the realization of the ASEAN Power Grid. Then, to go there, we have some barriers that we identified that have to be harmonized. That's the national energy policy, national PDP and priority regulations, also the availability of the infrastructure structures. The last point is also one point that we consider this for the multilateral trading in the future, that the availability of infrastructure should be there, and with the enough capacity to cater the flow from one country to other country, or one country to the behind the border of this country. And then that we also need solutions under ASEAN spirits, that's on the commitments. For me, so far that the commitments from ASEAN member states is also very important. So if this commitment can be kept, and then we can continue to have the strong commitment from the EMS, ASEAN member states. I hope that the realization of ASEAN Power Grid can be faster than what we have now. Funding sources also for the ASEAN Power Grid studies still under considerations. Then we also invite private participations. As I also mentioned before, that we have financial burden to develop APG infrastructure and institutions. So with that, we need spirit and commitment from all the ASEAN member states to support the ASEAN Power Grid to be realized. For that, then we have the strategic action plan toward the multilateral trading that we have. We expect and we dream on the realization of the first step of sub-region multilateral trading first. So for us in APG, that we expect that we have cross-border bilateral arrangement first, and then we go for the next step for the sub-regions, because we have 3 sub-regions, northerns, southerns, and easterns. If this sub-region can be connected and the multilateral trading can be implemented in the sub-region, then we can go further to sub-region with sub-regions. And this can be, we are going to reach the regional multilateral trading later on. So we are going to accelerate the development of bilateral cross-border and also prepare the formation of the ASEAN Power Grid institutions like as APG transmission system operators, APG transmissions generator planning, and also the regulator to regulate the ASEAN Power Grid. For that, the urns that already set up, we expect also to collaborate with the urn to do this, the second action plan of the APG. We are also going to synchronize national power developments. That's important to support the multilateral trading. That without that, I don't think that we can realize the multilateral trading for more than 100 megawatt maybe. More than that, we have to see that the facilities in the national infrastructures. And also we are going to encourage and optimize the utilization of ASEAN resources, not only funding, but also expertise and product to develop this ASEAN Power Grid. This is what we have done so far. We have the bilateral interconnection agreements, aims, harmonization of technical standards, and now we are going to study on the formation of ATSO and ATGP. The way forward to realize the APG, we are going to conduct the ASEAN Power Grid conceptual roadmap for bilateral trading toward the multilateral trading. We are going to also to establish funding sources for financial support to be assisted and sought by ASEAN infrastructure financial mechanisms. And for all of this, I believe that we need collaborations with governments, the regulator to conduct such activities. Then, if we refer to the ASEAN Energy Cooperations, by APEC 2016-2025 Phase 1, we see that the key initiative of the energy cooperation is embarking on multilateral trading to the ASEAN Power Grid. So if we can see this, the multilateral trading should be implemented on the first phase of the APEC 2016-2025, that is 2016-2020. So before 2020, we expect that the multilateral trading within the sub-regions can be implemented. So that's on the ASEAN Energy Cooperations. And this is, I think, our speakers and next speakers will also talk about this LTMS. And Papua also expect the outcomes of the LTMS to be considered, and then actually we also will follow what the governments decide later on. And this is the physical flow that I think detail will be explained by the next speaker. And this is the stairs that we are going to implement the ASEAN electricity market integrations based on our understanding that from the Papua Power Interconnection Corporation, most in the below, this in 1980s or 1970s, we discussed this. I think Mr. Kreisi also participate during the interconnections discussion at that time. That's 1980s. Then in 2007, we have the MOU of the APG, and currently we expect that fully cross-border interconnections can be established before we go further to the multilaterals. And then for that, to reach the ASEAN integration market, we have to implement the cross-border bilateral trading, development, the regulations, planning and operations framework. We have to also implement sub-region multilateral trading before we go further to the ASEAN electricity market integration. So that's what our understanding in the ASEAN Power Grid Consultative Committee. Then I share to you that maybe some of you can give me the suggestions how we can go to the top of this process of this task. And to conclude my presentations, I understand that ASEAN countries collectively need to benefit from the abundance of indigenous resources within the region. We have use of indigenous resources. APG is a step toward the optimization and conservation of energy in the ASEAN regions. And also on the planning point of view, we have aims and national PDP should be synchronized to support the multilateral power trading. We are going to review our aims to synchronize with national PDP and also the energy resources in the country. APG creates bilateral arrangements through cross-border electricity trading toward the multilateral trading arrangements. And finally, that we also expect that the involvement of the ASEAN member states is required to accelerate the realization of APG. From that, I think and I hope that you can get some update on the ASEAN Power Grid until today, that we still have so many work to do, and your collaboration from the AERNS, ASEAN Energy Regulatory Network, is mostly expected to join on the realization of the ASEAN Power Grid. Hopefully, the multilateral can be implemented before 2020, but for us, we have to consider the readiness of the national infrastructure, and then the regulations that can be harmonized within this 3 or 4 years. If this can be done, then we can go further to the next step. With that, thank you for your attention, and I hope that this can also benefit to all of us. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Bambang. That is very interesting. I like your word, Asian spirit, that we should have a common commitment. And allow me to summarize the topic of Mr. Bambang about this region. So even though we have diversity in our region, but the energy growth is still promising, and we expect a strong cooperation In the near future, we are going to move from the fuel into the coal, and we still keep the natural gas as the main fuel. Also, we will increase the share of renewable energies. You can see that the Hapua has accomplished a lot of work during 20 years, but there's still a lot of work to do. For example, regulation, harmonization, wheeling charge, financial and funding, and we still hope that we will see the multilateral trade in the near future. That was the summary from Mr. Bambang. And now we are going to move to the second topic from the regulatory point of view. Dr. Phuc, please welcome Dr. Phuc, the chairman of EARN, to present the progress of EARN and how EARN cooperate with Hapua. Dr. Phuc, please.
First of all, I would like to thank you, ERC Thailand, for your invitation for me, and have chance to be here and give you a short presentation in order to summarize EARN's activities and also the cooperation between EARN and Hapua in order to speed up the IPG project for cross-border interconnection between the ASEAN countries. And yes, and my presentation consists of the 6 sections, and I would like to give you a short introduction about the EARN and some orientation for the cooperation between EARN's members, and what we have done during the last year, and also the cooperation between EARN and Hapua, as I introduced before. And also discuss about the way forward on ASEAN on APG, and also last slide will be our short plan from now to the end of the year. And in this slide, I would use some milestone about the EARN. And in the 28th summit and IMM meeting, we agree on the to support on the initiative from the IDB to establish on ASEAN Energy Regulatory Network. We call it shortly EARN, AERN. And in this meeting, we also agree to choose Thailand to be in 2012. So we EARN was established, and we agreed to choose Thailand as the first chairperson of the EARN. And in the 30th ASEAN's Ministry of Energy meeting in September 2010. So as a chairman of the EARN, Thailand is report to the meeting to amend progress on the establishment of the EARN. And Thailand was chosen as the first chair of the EARN. And on the 31st meeting in 2013 in Bali, and also in the AMEM meeting, on the Ministry of Minister of Energy Ministry agrees that the chairperson of EARN will be rotated according to the alphabet order. And therefore, in the third meeting, held on the 30 May in 2014, Thailand's change in the change to or transfer the role of the chair EARN to Vietnam. So it was conducted in May 2014, and Vietnam which take a role of chair EARN chair for periods 2014 to 2015, and the next from the next year will be Brunei. So it's some milestone about the EARN in establishment and progress and of the development of the EARN. And we have planned to organize the 6th meeting in Hanoi by the end of November. Yeah. So in the last, on the last slide, and introduce about the plan for the 6th meeting. And our objective of Earth is exchange knowledge and experience in regulatory issues, providing a good platform for energy regulators for strengthen communication channels to promote mutual understanding of energy regulation of the member state and regional economic development, and collaborating closely with HAPUA and ISCOP and their relevant working groups in the harmonization of regulatory framework and technical standards to enable effective cooperation of IPG and TIGP. So now let me go to the second section, is orientation for the cooperation of the own member state. So the orientation of the for the cooperation of the own member will be established interconnecting arrangement in all member states in the fields of energy and utility for electricity, natural gas and water within all member states through ASEAN power grid and trans-ASEAN gas pipeline and water pipeline, shortly we call the APG and TIGP. And promote the cooperation in energy efficiency and conservation, as well as development of new renewable energy resources. Second one is accelerate the development of the ASEAN Power Grid interconnection project. The third one is promote mutual understanding and benefit on energy regulation and economic development. To create a group discussion such as a web portal and on energy regulatory issues amongst ASEAN member states. Arrange a meeting among ASEAN member states at least once a year to update situation and work development and other matters related to regulatory issues. Actually, during the last years, everywhere we organize 2 meetings, but actually in 2014 and 2015, one meeting is via teleconference, and only one meeting we have to sit to each other. So on the meeting via teleconference, we just summarize activities and short discussion about the plan for short plan. So we don't have long time enough to discuss for more detail and don't have a long time enough for exchange idea. But in the meeting, in sitting meeting, so we can meet each other and exchange idea. Last year we have meeting in November, and this year we have planned also meeting in November, by the end of November. And the fourth one is to enhance sharing and exchanging information on energy regulation among ASEAN member states. Conduct further study to support the work of HAPUA in order to address obstacles to cross-border trade and interconnection issue, including taxation and tariff for cross-border transaction, and regulation on public-private participant in APG projects. Exchange information and experience on renewable energy, power market, new technology, and other interesting and related issue concerned on energy regulation. Share information and case study on demand response, as well as role of energy regulators. Such as in last year in November, we organized a workshop and we share information and discuss about the demand response. Yeah, and some experience in the renewable energy we also share in that workshop last year. The fifth one is conduct capacity building among ASEAN member states. Conduct capacity building and training program for strengthen roles and responsibility of ASEAN energy regulators 1 or twice a year. Arrange international forum to exchange and share up-to-date information on energy regulatory issue or either related matter on energy with ASEAN member state and public twice a year. I have to say that capacity building program was idea from the ERC Thailand. In last year, in the meeting in 2015 in Nha Trang, and ERC Thailand raised this problem, and tomorrow will be the first capacity building program conducted by Thailand. And I think that maybe tomorrow or in the meeting in November, we'll discuss who will take the capacity building chair program in next year. So in order, from the orientation of the cooperation, we also have a plan, and I would like to give you some our work plan and the outcomes. We focus on knowledge management in terms of international best practice, including on the collection and compliance on the development of the energy regulatory data amongst the ASEAN member states, HAPUA and ISCOPE. On promotes the harmonization of energy regulatory issue in the region under program area number 8, regional energy regulation, in order to provide strategic support to the implementation of the action plan of APG and TIGP projects. Regional collaboration in TIGP and APG project allows the optimization of the region energy resource for greater energy security. So the program area number 8 is a program under APAH. So we submitted already to the APAH to register as a program number 8. And last year we discussed about the program and submitted to APAH. Third is the energy regulatory body have a focus on enhancing cross-border interconnection shared of electricity and connecting the national power grid of ASEAN member states. So that project was introduced by Mr. Bambang in the previous the presentation. So a lot of project, but in order to implement it, we have some obstacle and a lot of challenge. So we would like to cooperate with HAPO in order to overcome it. And EARN is looking to achieve a stable energy security in the region. In the medium term, EARN will promote effective unbundling of the transmission network and sufficient interconnection capacity by implementing fair cross-border transaction and ensure non-discriminatory access to regional network. So in order to cooperate with HAPUA, we established 2 EARN working groups together with HAPUA working groups and ABCCC to work on cross-border interconnection and regulatory harmonization. So there are 2 working groups as I introduced you. The first one is technical and regulatory harmonization. This group chaired by Thailand. And on Saturday, and day after tomorrow, we have a workshop for within the working group number 1. In the objective and plan, and also working group 1 is to conduct a further study in order to establish a guideline on technical and regulatory harmonization for APG, and to follow up the works of the HAPUA and provide the support and on technical and harmonization as needed, and provide the comments on the project completion report to HAPUA working group number 2. So HAPUA also organized 5 working groups, but we concentrated as a working group number 1 of the EARN. We concentrated on the cooperation with the working group. HAPUA working group number 2 also on the technical and harmonization standards. About the plan in April this year, working group number 1 was provide option and recommendation and solution, and then conduct the study and guidance on the cross-border interconnection and regulation harmonization. In October, and in today and tomorrow, so in the international forum, in conduct a capacity meeting and a meeting, and then report first working group to earn, and in submit the draft of the working group to earn for endorsement. And for the working group number 2, the objective is to providing comment on the project completion report to Hapua working group number 4, and developing and sharing a common database for of regulation or legal documents on power sector of ASEAN member country, and comprise regulation on following area: electricity tariff or charge, and power purchase agreement, technical regulation, and either related regulation. And on the gas regulation document will be transferred to English and shared amongst the ASEAN member countries. And we have a plan to organize a workshop within the working group number 2 in November, by the end of November. Now we would like to summarize the cooperation with Hapua. So an action plan need to consistent with Hapua input for success of the APG project as follow. The first one is accelerate the development of the APG interconnection projects. The second one is the preparation on the formation of the ASEAN of the APG institution. The third one is synchronize power development plan and optimize the generation of electricity. And the fourth one is encourage and optimize the utilization of the ASEAN resource, such as funding, expertise, and product to develop the generation, transmission, and distribution sectors. And as I informed before, we create the working group to support the working group of the Hapua. The first working group is we cooperate closely with the Hapua working group number 2, and the working group number 2 is concentrate on legal and commercialization. Who should be closely work with Hapua working group number 4. And in the future, for the APG, we concentrate on the support in the conducting study and identifying area where ASEAN resource can be fully utilized to benefit the ASEAN region. Studying more on the ASEAN primary energy resource and power generation, and identifies the list, Hapua expert, and support study for APG. Support in conducting study to address barriers to interconnection, cross-border trade, and investment by the Hapua working group, including harmonization of legal regulatory framework for bilateral and cross-border power interconnection and trade, formulation of the institution, and contractual agreement for cross-border trade to including taxation, tariff, and the third-party access, and study on the public-private partnership among the ASEAN power utilities. And support in conducting study and identifies area where ASEAN resource can be fully utilized to benefit the ASEAN regions. Studying more on ASEAN primary energy resource for the power generation, identify a list of Hapua experts to support study IPG, and identify key content on relevant peer working group in Hapua. And propose regulatory guidelines for power grid costs and cross-border implementation. Coordinated with Hapua to develop a joint calendar and channel of the communication, and reports outcome and propose approach to interconnection method due to the difference in voltage level and grid codes in among the countries. And propose regulation of the technical standard for the connecting equipment and operating the power grid. Propose a guideline for implementing interconnection, including testing, monitoring. And propose guideline for cooperating, performing, dispatching, clearing phones, maintaining and repairing power grids. Actually, now we have the interconnection between Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos. So actually it was operated for 2 or 3 years, but now we still have to cooperate and discuss about how to cooperate in dispatching the network. And propose a regulation on of metering system involving metering point technical standard, etc. Propose a procedure for resolving dispute, if any, and exchange of information. And now I would give you a brief about the short plan. So EarnWind work closely with IPTCC to carry out the study on the development by utilizing the available energy ingredients resource in the region, and study on the taxation and tariff for cross-border transaction and regulation. On also the public-private participant in the IPG projects. And we conduct further study to support the work of Hapua in order to address obstacles to cross-border trade and interconnection issue, and endorse practical interconnection capable grid costs, and explore more appropriate approach in tariff section. And Hapua and IBGCC would support EARN and closely contact to share information for the mutual benefit. And we have a plan and for the next meeting, the 6th meeting of the EARN meeting will be held on the end of November. So I will estimate maybe around the 25th or 26th of November. It will be conducted in Hanoi. So we will inform you exact date soon. In the meeting, we expect to summarize the EARN activities in 2015 and report on the activities of the working groups, and transaction on EARN chair to Brunei as agreed in the 31st of the AMAM meeting, that the chair of the EARN will be rotated according to the alphabet order. And discussion of the EARN action plan in 2016, comply with EARN roadmap development in 5-year period 2016-2020, that agree at the previous meeting. And we conduct a workshop or meeting within the EARN working group number 2 to discuss and update, sharing information about the activities at the SOMA, IMAM, and Hapua, and discuss on the draft working groups TOR and discuss orientation and action plan for 2016. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you very much, Dr. Phuc, for the presentation that show us the progress of EARN and how EARN cooperates with Hapua. Allow me to summarize once again that EARN was established in 2011 in order to harmonize the regulation and to assist Hapua, which is a group of electricity utilities, and assist and ESCO, which is a group of petroleum and gas company. You can see that EARN has done a lot of work and pretty active in the last 5 years. They have at least one meeting a year and already set up 2 working groups, the working group 1 and working group 2. And furthermore, they are already planning to have a first capacity building tomorrow. That's very impressive. So I think we still have time for a couple of questions from the floor. Are there any questions from the floor, please? The question about the first from the first speaker and the second from the utility point of view and from the regulator point of view. I think you already warm up, please. So, okay, gentlemen, please.
My name is Hino Wong from Federation of Thai Industries. I listened to Dr. Tin. I don't know whether I misunderstood or not. I heard that you include the gas pipeline, the water pipeline, in the efficiency conservation, new and renewable energy resources in your work, in your own work. Is that true? Well, that the earned, AERN earned activity will include the regulatory of the work of gas pipeline, water pipeline, energy efficiency and conservation, and renewable energy as well. So many parts. I don't know whether I misunderstood or not. Please, thank you.
Yes, we, as you know, that's EARN was established maybe just 5 years ago, and during the first 3 years, maybe we concentrated on the organize the EARN, and some activity was conducted. And last year we just agree on the roadmap how we will, for the work we work for in the future. And in the sector of the energy, we also have to take responsibility on not only on the power grid, on the but also on gas pipelines. Yeah. And is the programs TAGP is included the gas pipeline and water pipeline, and therefore we also the work we have to concentrate on that one. But now we actually we the first step we concentrate on APG, and for the TAGP we still don't have any activity on that TAGP. But in the future we will also concentrate on the TAGP as a gas pipeline. And for the renewable energy, it's also our objective. But during the last year, we, as I told you before, we concentrated only on IPGCC, and we conducted the first workshop last year in November last year. So that's discussed about the demand response, and also something on the renewable energy we want to discuss in this workshop, but not so far. It's first idea, and first discussion only. But I think in the future we also take also focus on that one, because renewable energy is also I think it's a hot topic now, because now first the primary energy or fossil fuels in reduce, and therefore we need to deploy the renewable energy. And as a regulatory in the energy section, we also need to pay attention on that one.
So any question ถามในภาษาไทยก็ได้นะครับ So if not, I think thanks again, Dr. Fook. Now we are already heard from the utility and from the regulator, and we are now moving to the next topic, talking about of the pilot project of the ASEAN interconnection from Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. We call it Power Integration Project. We saw this project as the first multilateral project. So Dr. Poonpat, please.
Thank you, Dr. Puvanat, and thank you, the ERC, for inviting me to this distinguished forum today. It's my pleasure to share with you the updated on the Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore on the power integration project. We call it LTMS PIP. Somebody call it LTMS PIP. Okay. So let me start with the. This is the project that Mr. Bambang has already mentioned, that since we have signed the MOU on the APG in Thailand, in Bangkok, since 1999, we have developed so many cross-border power trades, but most of it is bilateral activities. And it's never come up to develop the multilateral. So this is the first ASEAN multilateral regional power integration, which we consider it has a very ambitious step for the ASEANs to take part on this. And it is the cooperation among the four countries, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. And today I will walk you through the potential of this project. And we will scrutinize the demand and supply on this project, this is the factor that we must ensure that we have enough power supply to trade across the border. And also the infrastructure, whether it is ready for this power integration project or not. And also we are planning to expand it to be the power market integration in the region. And I will also update you the LTMS project so far. Let me trace you back to where the LTMS PIP has been started. It was started in 2013. This is during the time then that we have the senior official on energy meeting in Manado in Indonesia. The four sole leaders senior official energy meetings in four countries. They have the goal, they have the vision that they talk together. I think it is not very formal. It's on the corridor when they have the coffee break, and then they think that, okay, we should do something that should meet the target of the 2015, that we are going to have the ASEAN economic community. So in that time, when they talk about this kinds of the vision, four countries quite agree on this plan. And then after they go back to their capital, they have get the permission from the capital, and then they start working on the LTMS project. At that time, we do not have the name LTMS. We just call it the Power Integration or Power Cross-Border in the four countries project. We don't have the sexy name like this. It just come up later. In the 2014, when we have the senior official meeting in Luang Prabang in Lao PDR, at that time, we have announced that this is the initiation that the four countries confirm each other that we are going to do this kind of power integration project. And then it come to the 2014 during the September in the meeting, ASEAN Energy meeting. The Lao energy minister has announced to among the other ASEAN energy minister colleagues that this is the project that is ongoing, and we have the ambition to set it to be the first multilateral power trade in the ASEAN countries. Let me give you some X-ray on the country profile on the among the 4 countries. First of all, we have to ensure that we have enough power supply to trade from Lao PDR, and from this picture, you can see that the installed capacity of the Lao PDR is set about 3,000 megawatt, 200 so far. And the peak demand in the country is about 899 megawatts. So there is some rooms on the surplus for trading. And in Thailand, the installed capacity is about 37,000 megawatt, and the peak demand is about 26,000 megawatt. So we still have enough capacity to trade on this project as well. And for Malaysia, when we focus on the peninsula of Malaysia, the installed capacity is about 21,000 megawatt, and the peak demand is about 16,000 megawatt. And Singapore, they have installed capacity about 13,000 megawatt, and peak demand is about 6,800 megawatt. So far, we can see that we have enough capacity to trade among these 4 countries. And let me give you some ideas on when we have enough power to trade, but the way to carry out the power from the source from Laos to Singapore is that ready for the power interconnection or the power transmission or not. And this is the slides from the Lao PDR. I borrow from Lao EDL. And you can see that there is a cross-border transmission lines between Thailand and Lao PDR. And the size of the interconnection is ranging from 115 kV to 500 kV. And if we focus on the 115 kV, there is 5 available interconnections on this. And this is a picture from IGAT, and we can see that the existing interconnection so far in Thailand and Laos between the water, we have the 115 kV between Nong Khai in Thailand and the Vientiane in Lao PDR. And the second transmission line is 115 kV in Bungkan province of Thailand and Pak San in Lao PDR. And the third one is in the Nakhon Phanom province and Tha Khek in Lao PDR. And the fourth one is in Mukdahan and Sawanakhet. And the fifth one is between Sirinthorn and Bangyo. So we have 5 interconnections available for trading between Laos and Thailand. And moreover, there is also a plan to expand the interconnection from the 115 kV to 500 kV in the future. And so far, we are planning to 500 kV in Nan province to Hong Sa, which is to support the trading from the Hong Sa power plants in Laos. And also 500 kV from Udon Thani to Nabong. And also another one is 500 kV from Ubon Ratchathani to Paksay. So this is the future plan for the interconnection to receive and to support the power integration project. And this picture shows you that when we got the power from the border, and how can we carry it out to the end, to the southern part of Thailand. So far on the left-hand side picture, you can see that for the purple line, which is the 500 kV, which is right now we have it from the northern part of Thailand down to the central part of Thailand in Bangkok, and then down to the upper part of the southern region of Thailand. And we plan to increase these transmission lines in the future. That is on the right-hand side picture. That means it will be expanded to the northeastern region in the future. And also, we are planning to establish the transmission line down to the southern part to Sungai Golok in the future. And this is the picture from Malaysia. I borrow it from my colleagues. This is to show you that after we got the power from Laos, passed through Thailand, and then how can we connect to Malaysia? There are two interconnections that so far has been established between the TNB and the EGAT. The first one is the Kulun and Krongak, which is 300 kV HVDC, and the capacity to handle this power transmission is up to 300 megawatts. And the other one is a Chuping and Sadao, and that is 132 kV HVAC, and the capacity to handle is about 80 megawatts. And from TNB to Singapore, there is also the interconnection that is between Preng Thong and Sinoko. That is the interconnection line. Capacity is about 275 kV, and the capacity is about 450. And the mode of exchange is for the energy exchange. So that means the transmission is ready for our power integration project. And the Singapore, this interconnection project, they usually to support the stability of the system between the two countries. So far, so you can see that what is a TMS, LTMS PIP, and we have agreed among the LTMS working group that we will set the pilot project for the LTMS, like the more like the pilot study, up to the 100 megawatt, because it can handle 100 megawatt for sure. And in the mechanisms, on the mechanism part of the LTMS, we have representatives from three sectors. The first one is from the government sector. The second one is from the electric utilities. And the third one is from the regulatory commissions. So altogether, we call it the LTMS working group. And LTMS working group has set up the MOU, and also the LTMS working group also create the task force. We call it the technical task force, or the TTF, which is the gathering of the experts in the ASEAN power utilities, so that they can do some in-depth study and analysis, and also provide some recommendations back to the LTMS working group. So far, the issues that is considering among the LTMS working group can be grouping into four main topics. The first one is the technical viability, and we also delegate this to Malaysia to be responsible for the technical viability study. And the other one is the commercial arrangement, that is the part for the Thailand responsibilities, which we will be taking care on the how can we set up the business between the seller and buyer, and then also from the country in transit as well. And also, in order to trade this power, we must ensure that it will conform to the legal and the regulatory framework, and this will be the task for the Singapore to be in charge on this part. And the other part is the very important one also, that is a tax and tariff structure will be under the responsibility of the Lao PDR. So far, let me give you some snapshot on the technical viabilities. Starting from the left-hand side from Lao PDR, there are 5 interconnections that I already mentioned, pass through, and that is 115 kV. And then when Thailand get 100 megawatts from Lao PDR, we will pass it through Malaysia on the southern part that by the 300 kV HVDC in the southern part, and then Malaysia will pass it through Singapore with the 275 kV HVAC. And by this concept, so far, we quite confident that for the first 100 megawatt pilot project is feasible for us to do. And let me give you some ideas on the commercial arrangement. What are we talking about when we mention about the commercial arrangement? This is the simple ideas of the commercial arrangement, starting from Lao PDR to Singapore. Suppose that we have a buyer and seller. Lao is the seller, and Singapore is the buyer. Between Lao PDR and Singapore, they must set up the PPA, Power Purchase Agreement. And then with this Power Purchase Agreement, get it signed between Lao and Singapore. And then when Lao starting to transmit the power to Singapore, it will be passed through Thailand and Malaysia. So Thailand and Malaysia will need to have the wheeling charge agreement between Thailand and Singapore, and also the wheeling charge agreement between Malaysia and Singapore as well. The more sophisticated commercial arrangement is still ongoing, but this is a simple one for your understanding that it might be work like this, but the final one might be more sophisticated than this. And the commercial arrangement, what is another part that we have to take care about? Because sometimes when we set it up 100 megawatt as the origin of the trading, but sometimes Lao might appear to send the power might be a little bit higher or lower than 100 megawatt, and that is the task of some other country like Thailand and Malaysia to make sure that we end up sending the power to Singapore 100 megawatt. So in this diagram, you can see that if Lao send the power or the energy difference might be higher or lower, we call it delta 1, and that will be multiplied by the balancing charge. That is the part that will be the price or the cost that will be included in the tariff at the destination. And by this concept, we will incorporate it into the wheeling charge, because there are 2 countries that will be the country in transit, ICAT and TNB. So the proposed wheeling charge at the moment, we suggest that there will be 4 major components for the wheeling charge. The first one will be the transmission charge, which is actually incur the capital cost of building the transmission, and how can you allow the power to transmit to the country. And the other part is the loss charge, because when you transmit 100 megawatts of the power to the end, there may be some loss in the transmission lines. And this must be done through the calibration and then the simulation to get the number of what is the percentage of the loss charge in the transmission system. And also the balancing charge, that is what I just already explained to you, might be higher or lower before more than the 100 megawatt, and how can we net it to be 0 at the end. And also the other part is the administration charge to taking care of how can we operate the transmission line and the system of each country. And Malaysia also suggests some ideas that is quite similar to both countries between Thailand and Malaysia. TNB also suggests that there will be the single buyer operations, there will be the system operation and administration costs, and also the transmission usage, charge and losses, and also tax and tariff as well, and the balancing charge at the end. So when we compare between IGAT and TNB together, normally the conceptual idea is almost the same, that is a transmission, usage and charge and losses, and the balancing charge, and the other component will be the administration charge. Another key issue is how can we handle with the cross-border regulations, because when we take into account the power to pass through the country, this might be a kind of the commodities or the energy import to the country. So far, this is I have only the case of Thailand, that for Thailand, when we receive the power from the foreign countries like Laos, PDR or Malaysia, we have the import duty at 0%. And because this power has generated the value added in the country GDP, so we have to charge another VAT at 7%. That is according to our VAT in the country. And when we export at the end, at the southern part to Malaysia or to Laos or to Cambodia, when we export the power, we don't have the export duty that is also equal to the 0%, and the VAT is also 0% as well. So this is the case of Thailand, but we still need to discuss more on these issues among other 3 member countries of the LTMS. So when we put all together, that is the proposed selling price from the Lao PDR, plus the wheeling charge and others costs from Thailand, plus the wheeling charge and other costs from Malaysia, that will be equal to the purchasing price at the destination in the Singapore. The conclusion of the LTMS project so far, I would like to emphasize that we are quite confident that with the great hydropower potentials from Lao PDR, this will be a great strength for the LTMS project to be feasible. And also with a well-established power pool market in Singapore, they have a good power pool system in order to bid and in order to trade in the power pool system. So this will be another advantage for the LTMS project. And also, we have the reliable transmission lines from Lao PDR to Thailand, and Thailand to Malaysia, and also Malaysia to Singapore. This is another advantage that will make this LTMS project feasible. And also, among our 4 countries, we have the existing bilateral purchase agreement, power purchase agreement so far already. We have the cross-border, we have the practice on the bilateral trade already. So this is nothing new for us, but the way that we incorporate another 2 countries in this project will make it sure that the grid code and whatever will synchronize together. And also we have the technical expertise. I believe that the people, either in the public utilities, the regulator, or the policymaker, they are quite keen on these issues, on the power trade. And among these, we have a close consultation, close coordination among the governments, among the public utilities, and also among the regulatory commissions. We have the regular meeting, we have the regular consultation. So this will be a good source for coordinating and harmonizing our energy policies. And last but not least, but very important, we need a strong and continued support for the political commitment on this LTMS project. And so far, the LTMS countries are preparing to sign the MOU on the LTMS PAP by the energy minister of our 4 countries. So this will send a strong signal and also give the confidence to the people in ASEAN country that this will be a project, the first project of the multilateral power trade in ASEAN, that it still exists after we are waiting for decades on this project. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Dr. Poonpat. The mechanism looks straightforward and simple, but I hope that the purchasing price at Singapore will not too expensive for them. Let me summarize from three speakers today. This morning, starting from Mr. Bambang, we see the whole picture, the big picture 20 years ago as an Asian power grid. Hapua was very active. They have 16 interconnection, some of those already commissioned. And 5 years ago, we set up the AERN, or Group of Regulator in ASEAN, to work closely with the Hapua and ESCOPE. And we see the last puzzle from the pilot project is a multilateral agreement between Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. But there's still a lot of work to do. In this connection, I would like to ask your comments or a question from the floor, please.
Once more, please. I saw the country profile, and all the 4 countries, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, they have access capacity. Your example of selling electricity from Laos to Singapore, I don't know when will this take place, because at present Singapore installed capacity is 13,000 megawatt, but peak demand only 6.8 thousand. Therefore, it's very interesting for study concerning to your plan. Therefore, in actual, I don't know when will this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kun Hin, for your questions. Actually, I also got the same question like you when I first saw this country profile, when I listened to the presentation from other countries, especially from Singapore. If you can see that there will be quite a big gap between the demand and the supply. I also asked Singapore the same questions like you asked me. If you have excess supply in your country already, why you need to establish this power trade in your country? And the answer is very simple, is that if I can get the power at a cheaper price than I can produce by my country, why don't I get it? So this is a simple, basic demand and supply mechanisms. And also to encourage the saying from Mr. Bambang that in the future we should promote the sharing of the energy resources more and more in our ASEAN regions, because the energy resources is still become more scarcer and scarcer. So this is the pilot project. We're trying to introduce you the idea that you don't need to produce by your own country to support your own country. You can do something else to make it more like the specialization techniques. If Lao PDR can be claimed as a battery of Asia, and then they can want to sell it to Singapore. And Thailand and Malaysia has the good system to support this project. Why don't we collaborate together and then make these things realization and then make it better for ASEAN region as a whole? Thank you.
So, Mr. Bambang, please.
Thank you. Yeah, to add some, Dr. Pompat, on the utilization of the resources in the ASEAN, for us in Papua, on the technical point of view, there will be no problem that we can make it this power flow from Laos to Singapore. But for us in APGCC, we want to see whether the multilateral trading can happen and implement it in the near future. With that, we can implement to the other regions, sub-regions, I think. So for the Papua and APGC, the most important point on this initiative is whether the multilateral agreements or arrangements can happen and implemented in the area. No matter on the technicals, because on the technical issues, we can solve this problem. But more important and difficult to agree on the agreement on the commercials and regulations. That's most important that we have to solve. Then this is also our constraint in the ASEAN power grid, that the agreement on the regulations and also tariff and price is difficult. As you see that we have one other project that have to be completed in 2015 according to the APEC 2010-2015. We have two priority projects, just Malaysia to Indonesia and Sumatra, and one Malaysia, Sarawak, in Kalimantan to West Kalimantan. The last project, Sarawak to West Kalimantan, is ongoing, but for Sumatra and Malaysia, the discussion still ongoing. So we have difference in West Kalimantan, the physical projects ongoing, but in Sumatra, Malaysia, the discussion still ongoing. This is the difference. So both projects was expected to be completed in 2015, but still commercials and regulations still under discussions for Sumatra. This take time. So if this LTMS can be implemented within 3 years, in the future 3 years, for Papua and APGC, we can copy this and duplicate it to the other part of the regions. That's my additional information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bambang. One more question from the gentleman from the front.
Good morning. I'm Mike from the regulator of Vietnam, and I have a couple of questions to Dr. Ponpat. The first question is about on the winning chart. So in your slide, the winning chart screen has 4 components. So I just wonder that how about the timetable to set the winning chart? For example, you will set the uniform chart for the whole year, or the charts will be depend on the actual operation. And the second question is about which is the key benefits of Thailand and Malaysia in this case. I understand that Singapore will purchase the energy from Laos, but which is the key benefits of Thailand and Malaysia? And the third question is, who is responsible for dispatching the power station in Laos? Because you said that this power station will participate into the power pool market in Singapore. So in this case, who is responsible for dispatching the power station? Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the first question about the wheeling charge, I have to confess that I'm not the technical person in the wheeling charge, but from the study it's still ongoing in the technical task force. They're still discussing on these issues that how can the period of setting the wheeling charge. That I think the ICAT people might help me on answering these questions. But for the benefits for the two countries, Thailand and Malaysia, I think for Thailand and Malaysia, one of the things is that for Thailand, we are the transit country, and in the transmission system so far, we still have some rooms for the power trade in this issue. And in terms of the country-wide level, I think this will be to use up the capacity to make it sure that we use the transmission line efficiently and for the benefits of our country and for the region. And for the regional benefits, that will also strengthen the energy security of the ASEAN regions. Because if the LTMS PAP project has been set up, it will be the platform, or it will be the prototype of the multilateral trade in the power sector, the first one in ASEAN. So that's why we, as Thailand, we do not consider the benefits very much on this, but we consider the region-wide benefit as our main scope, because this will get the country to strengthen the energy security of the ASEAN region as a whole. And I think the Malaysia might add something more, but they might think the same thing, because on this project we are not doing for the commercial purpose. We are doing it for the spirit of ASEAN together. And for the dispatching to Singapore, after we discussing with Singapore so far, there will be the what we call the energy importer in Singapore. That we've got the license from EMA, Energy Market Authority of Singapore. That will give the license for the energy importer to get the power from outside in order to trade into the pool of the Singapore. So on the Laos side, maybe the EDL will provide the 100 megawatts of the power to Thailand and Thailand to Malaysia and to this energy importer in Singapore. So this is the still ongoing concept that we need to elaborate for the business arrangement that will be taken care by Thailand in the technical task force. Thank you.
So please.
Yeah, my name is Razid from Energy Commission of Malaysia. I just want to add on to what Dr. Poonpat had mentioned. Your first question, rightly, we have actually discussed technical. I'm a party of this LTMS, both committee as well as technical task force. To answer your question, there will be only energy charges. You know, it's not a capacity. You know, it's when a party willing a power from one point to another point, they only be charged on energy. It's not a capacity. We're not looking at bidding the capacity of the interconnector. We're only going to charge the amount of energy that been wheeled through the network of each transit countries. That could be to answer your question. And the previous question regarding this excess capacity, you rightly spotted that in Singapore they have more than 90% excess. But don't forget, that's only capacity. What we're talking about is energy, right? So energy is dependent on the fuel. Singapore dependent, I wouldn't say purely, but being dominated by the natural gas, as a primary energy. So if Laos can provide a cheaper and greener energy, so why not, right? They have excess capacity, but if the energy is cheaper from some other countries, they may consider. I mean, in Singapore point of view, it is already a market. You know, it's subjected to this, half an hour bidding and so on in the wholesale market. But that's another subject altogether. But sure enough, in Malaysia scenario, we also have a reserve margin of about 23-26% at the moment. But that on capacity. But we still depend on 100% foreign import of coal. We do have indigenous gas, but we have started importing LNG from overseas. So on the primary side, we are starting to get more exposure, or at least on the gas side, on international market price. Right? So if we can optimize on energy resources, I just give you an example that if Indonesia can send electron to our country, we're willing to accept electron rather than coal. It could be cheaper to buy electron from Indonesia rather than buying coal. So that kind of optimization that we're looking at, right, in terms of resources, in terms of demands, balancing, and so on. So that's the concept that we're looking at the moment, right? Optimizing resources, primary energy, as well as secondary energy in terms of electricity and so on. So rightly what Dr. Pumpat mentioned, this is, there's a pathfinder that we are looking at the bigger picture. We want to explore, because we're familiar with bilateral sharing a spinning reserve. We have been sharing a spinning reserve with Thailand and Singapore, which is we are getting the benefits. As we speak now, we are sharing a spinning reserve with Singapore. We're talking about Malaysia. We are sharing a spinning reserve with Thailand, which is we've been enjoying this sharing of spinning reserve. It is tremendous benefit. And we also been sharing this emergency exchange. Sometimes we have shortage due to some other reasons. For example, we may have a big outage of gas facilities in offshore of Peninsular Malaysia that we may have to import from Singapore and Thailand. So those are the benefits that we have enjoyed, right? So what LTMS will provide us is we are looking at, how can we gain more from these existing facilities that we have at the moment. The connection between two countries without putting new investment. We are basically optimizing the existing capacity that we have in terms of network, as well as generation capacity that we have, with optimizing, the primary fuel costs. So those, we are not very ambitious, but we are moving a little bit step further, from bilateral to multilateral and so on. So those are the challenges that we are, up to now. So we hope that, with this project, we can, discover new things that we can move up our cooperation a bit further. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Malaysia, for valuable comments and our comments. Now we come to the end of the session. One more question from
thank you.
GIZ.
Yes, thank you very much. Thomas Krometzka, GIZ in Thailand. One quick question and one comment. The question to Kun Poonpat. You mentioned the cross-border trade already. I'd be curious, who are the contractual partners for cross-border power trades at the moment? Is it the ministries or is it the utilities? And just a quick comment also to the matter of the interconnection. I strongly congratulate on the activities ongoing already, and I think with the view to the integration of fluctuating renewable energy sources, where most of the countries here in the room have strong targets, especially Thailand, I think all of the countries will strongly benefit from an interconnection, which we should probably not forget in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. For the cross-border issues, I think the authority that taking care on this issue is right now is the EGAT, because we have the enhancing gas buyers. So that means they are the interconnection points. They're taking care of the transmission border at the border between Thailand and Laos, and also between Thailand and Malaysia. And also this is the interconnection. I agree with you that will enhance the renewable energy support in the future as well. So I think that this LTMS project will be a plus for all kinds of the energy resource, energy optimizations among the ASEAN countries. Thank you.
So that will be the last question, please.
Sorry. My name is Suthep Chimklai. I'm from Electricity Generating Authority of Thailand. I am quite interested in seeing the power transfer from Laos to Singapore happen. I used to be involved in harbor activities for quite a while, and as Bambang mentioned in his speech, that we have been working for quite a long time on a ASEAN power grid, but it hasn't happened yet. So, in my opinion, I believe that there will be enough generation in our region, but we may not have enough transmission system facilities to transfer power from one country to other countries. For example, if we would like to transfer power from Laos to Singapore, we need to have proper transmission system inside Thailand and also in Malaysia. And now, even in Thailand, we still need a lot of transmission system development to the south of Thailand, because this is going to be part of the section of line that will be used to transfer power to Singapore. And my concern is about the HVDC link between Thailand and Malaysia. It has been used for quite a while, and now we have the problem of maintenance, because the manufacturer of these HVDC facilities don't have spare parts anymore, so we'll have problem of maintenance. So we need to look at this. Maybe in your committee, you should look at the transmission system as well, not just the generation alone. And I have a remark that 100 megawatt might not be too small to create any impact. So maybe you need to consider like higher capacity, even at the beginning state, at initial state. And my question is, what is your ultimate level of capacity to be transferred from Laos to Singapore? Thank you.
I agree with you that 100 megawatt might not create a great impact on these the power trade projects, but it's like the test run, because it's like the first step that we are walking into something that is we never touch it. So that means we have to walk into that area very carefully, and we need to make sure that we get the consent from all authorities in each countries. So that's 100 megawatt is still the starting point. And in the future, when the transmission line is expanded in each countries, so I think it will be able to receive more power trade in the future. And right now, so far, the working group of the LTMS has not yet set the target for the final goals. We want to see the first step, 100 megawatts. And then we are trying to learn from this 100 megawatt, what is the pro and cons, and then we will develop to the further step. And then the readiness of each country, how can we trade this power integration project. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we come to really end of this session. Thank you very much for your attention, and we hope that you stay with us until the end of this event. And may I request a big applause for our three speakers once again.